let us attune to the vibrational frequency of the Supreme Self. By turning the attention within, to the source of awareness, in the space of silence, of peace, of timeless stillness. And feel the energy of divine love in the heart. And compassion and healing power. And be saturated in the energy that emanates from the Absolute. Abide as the uncreated presence, beyond life and death. And merge back into the source. In which we are all one. And all liberated from suffering. From illusion. And from the wheel of time. Feel the superposition of the one and the multiplicity. Nirvana and samsara. And feel how it is to be in the matrix, but not of it. And to live in freedom from fear. And from addiction. In unconditional, infinite unity with all that is. Shiva, Paramashiva, Parashakti, Brahman, Buddha, Allah, Cristo, Krishna, Tao. Namah Shivaya. Shiva Namah. Om Shivoham. Om Tat Sat. Namaste. joy to see everyone and to welcome those who are attending this satsang on the lovestream. Blessings to everyone. It's an auspicious evening for a number of reasons, but it's also a very sober and somber evening, somewhat for the same reasons, because we are approaching those climactic moments of the time cycle of the end of Kali Yuga, when the white water of this river of time gets hit. And there are many obstacles in the phenomenal plane that, in order to get past without our raft being capsized, we must be very alert and very awake and very courageous and very generous in being helpful and compassionate and unified as a community of beings who are all seeking the same goal of liberation and of restoration of a world of goodness, of beauty, of truth, where souls can heal from all the traumas that have been accumulated in this period of Kali Yuga. And so we are in a time both of healing and of death. And we must be able to cope with both and to offer that energy that is beyond the illusion of duality in order to serve in the highest way all of those beings who are in confusion, in terror, in dread, with a sense of hopelessness, with a sense of lostness, to embody and offer and emanate that light that can bring peace to the heart and lead the consciousness back to our original nature of infinite, transcendent consciousness, unborn and deathless, and not conditioned by all of the deceptions that are now being indoctrinating the people of the earth plane. So we need to free our minds, we need to free our hearts, we need to free our will from the bondages that hold us in body consciousness and in the internal conflicts that keep many too weak and too closed-hearted and minded to be able to find their way out of the labyrinth of this dying world into the light and the glory of the presence of God. But that presence is here and within us all, and shines very brightly for those whose third eye is open, who can see the real and not be trapped in the illusion. So the more that we create an energy field of beings who are free from all of the illusions, that the world is now delivering and overlaying upon consciousness, the more that we can offer a way to quick release from the pain and the despair that many are feeling today. And this is our function as Sat Yogis, and this is our hope, to be able to serve the world by creating such a field that will be a beacon of light and of love and of power to help others wherever they may be physically, to feel connected and protected by the Supreme Being who pervades and guides us all if we have the wisdom to listen deeply and to follow our heart. So thank you all for all the beautiful inner work that you are doing to transcend the ego and to be here as avatars of the one light, so that others may see that light embodied in you and become inspired to be illumined in the same sacred and impeccable and undisturbable way, no matter what conditions happen on the earth plane. So that's the reason for the satsang, and now we can go into the details and the fine print. So thank you all. Namaste. Reason, I suppose, one is for this celebration is that finally this book that we have been talking about for some time, The Tao of the Final Days, is now on Amazon and available in paperback. And so we're here to talk about why you might be interested in it, why it might help you, and why it was written in the first place, and who it might be of value to. So I'll go into a little bit of the history of how this came about. In meditation, during a period when I was studying intensely, and the whole ashram actually was encountering the Taoist sages, Laozi and Zhuangzi in particular, but I was studying all of the sages and appreciating the very subtle and powerful wisdom that still shines through the Tao Te Ching after thousands of years. But recognizing that the Tao was organized and put into a paradigm at that time, which was the beginning of Kali Yuga, that is no longer as relevant here at the end of Kali Yuga. And so the same principles of the Tao need to be applied to our current situation. So I began to, I won't say channel Lao Tzu, but at least I was invoking the presence of that intelligence and of asking what would Lao Tzu write today? How would Lao Tzu respond? How would any Taoist sage cope with the current world situation and what wisdom could be offered. When Laozi was writing, and of course he was not writing alone, he was a leader of a wisdom school, and there were several Taoist wisdom schools at the time. And the Tao was also a concept used by the Confucian wisdom school and various other schools. The Tao is a universal principle, and it was present all through China and through the East, in fact. Tao meaning Dharma in its Sanskrit form. And the purpose of Laozi was to teach the rulers of the city-states that were the main communal structures at that time how to sustain their societies in the best way, how to keep the people honest, peaceful, contented, how to keep a sense of holiness, how to sustain peace between other countries, other states that would be aggressive, how to respond with wisdom to prevent war, or if necessary, to use the high arts of the Tao in order to win wars quickly with the least bloodshed, and to be able to function in a way that would sustain and inspire other states to follow that same principle of the Tao, so that the land would be at peace for as long as possible. So he was basically a consultant for rulers who he hoped to turn into sages. That same idea was present in ancient Greece. Plato wanted to create philosopher kings. It's the same idea. Both of them had very little success at this project. However, for a time, the Tao could be applied from top down, because there was still enough interest in the upper classes in wisdom, in the Tao, at least as a way to hold together that ruling class in order to keep the working people and the people who were doing the farming and the fishing and the various works of metallurgy, etc., in a harmonious relationship, and to keep the economy functioning social level. And they accomplished this for some time. And so the project was one of the main activities of wisdom schools for a time. But gradually a fall in consciousness ensued, and there was little interest at the top levels, and the Tao was then more used as an educational principle for those who were in the middle classes, and then those who were in the workers, proletariat, let's say. So today we are in that state where we have to apply the Tao from the bottom up, not from the top down, because there are very few rulers today who are interested in the wisdom of the Tao, alas. So we have to deal with the situation now, not so much of sustaining cultures, because they have already reached a point at the edge of collapse and chaos, but how to use the Tao to cope with that chaos, and how to apply those principles in one's own life, in the life of one's community, and at the level of the planetary morphogenetic field in which we are all connected, so that these levels of consciousness that transcend the confused ego and even the level of soul can be acquired, can be attuned to by all of those in the planetary noosphere who seek to be, let's say, able to download that wisdom in real time when needed, and to be able to have the willpower to overcome the conflicts and confusion in the world and attain liberation in these last moments before the chaos becomes overwhelming for most people and the final act of total war ensues. So this is, we are in that last margin of time in which the Tao can still be disseminated and taught and given as guidance to help those who seek liberation from their own karmic bondages and to be of service in the world and to plant seeds for the world to come, for the next age that will follow the vanishing of this age. The seeds must sprout now if there is going to be a renaissance in the future. And even though it cannot be made mainstream now, there can be such an intensity of power of truth that happens at different nodes, different communities around the world, that a grid of consciousness can refuel the hearts of those who are feeling exhausted by the stresses of life and be sustained by that energy and be so connected to it that they are karmically enabled to pass through the eye of the needle after the death of the body into that next age, which, if we are successful, will be a kingdom of heaven. And quite the opposite of the hell realm that we now seemingly inhabit. So this book, and we have, in addition to the paperback, we have the this larger print, which is better for these eyes. So I thought maybe it's a good idea to read a few of the songs from the book so people have an idea of what the intention is and how it is expressed. But the main idea was to consider what people need to know who are spiritually inclined and who are out of denial and able to face reality as it is at the ground level with all of the machinations and oppressive events and all of the conflicting struggles that are going on in the world at different levels, and how to navigate through these accurately with wisdom, with peace, and with connection to the Godhead in order to be able to be a giver of wisdom and peace and power to whomever one encounters in one's journey. So the Tao is that principle that unites the phenomenal and the noumenal. The word has many meanings, and it has many inflections in different contexts, but its basic translation is the way. So it is the way to live in harmony with the highest consciousness and to integrate that with its phenomenal appearance as a world, the transcendent and the immanent, how to live in the non-duality of both, free from the illusions that come when one is only aware of one's phenomenal existence as an organism in a physical world of objects, but to also simultaneously live in that consciousness which recognizes that this is all mind, this is all a single intelligence, and the world is a holographic dream field, And it is not a world in which suffering and death are real, but they are only apparent because consciousness never dies. And so the more that we detach from the egoic identity with the body, and the more we reconnect with our identity as pure spirit, bodiless and untouched by events of karma, untouched by the apparent suffering of the world, the more we have the luxury of offering compassion and peace and light and love to all without the obstructions of projection and prejudice and fear that would otherwise afflict us. So the book is basically the Tao Te Ching itself. It's the original book by Laozi. Of course, Tao is the way, De is the virtue of the way. So the word virtue, of course, refers not just to goodness, but to the power that enables one to act accurately with dispassion as well as compassion. And that virtue that can bring about synchronicities within the phenomenal realm, that has powers of attraction and powers that bring latent potentialities into manifest form. That level of consciousness is attainable once we have transcended the ego, which can change the scenarios that one seems to be facing in the world and bring about minor and major miracles within the time stream. So there is a practical power to being attuned to the mind of God, which is what the Tao is. And the book by Laozi that has been adapted is intended to bring us all to that level, to teach us how to be sages, to be those who are wise through having gone through the humility of demolishing the ego identity and becoming completely and totally unified with God consciousness. It's that is the shift that is required to function as a sage. And then everything that happens in one's life will happen spontaneously. There won't be anything to figure out or decide. Everything will flow. And one will realize that time is not real. All of this has happened before. It's eternal. It's not new. And although everything is present and eternal and brilliant in the intensity of the vibrational energy, when all of the veils of illusion have been removed, we also have the understanding that nothing is happening. And so nothing perturbs the heart, and one is able to function even in the midst of a war zone, even in the midst of seeming catastrophic events and deaths and losses of every kind. So it's that immunity to suffering that we have to acquire quickly in order to be able to serve in the war zone of the world that we are now having to help release from its travails. So I'm sure everyone who is listening to this, wherever you are, knows about the Tao Te Ching, has probably read it. And you know, when I was doing research for this book, I discovered there are at least 50 English translations of the Tao Te Ching. And probably more than that. And of course, if we add all of the modern Western languages, there's no telling how many there are. But because Chinese is written in ideograms, And it's the meaning of those ideograms thousands of years ago are not the same as what they are now. There are a lot of ambiguities in the text. And because there were no printing presses then, there were only hand copies. There were different copies had slightly different words in them also. So there isn't one definitive edition of the Tao Te Ching either. And so if you read a really academic version of it, you'll find many, many footnotes. As one scholar says this, another says another word should be used instead of that one. So the text has a certain amount of indeterminacy in it, which is part of the game of the whole universe. And we have to work with that indeterminacy. And so I consulted different translations with different inflections and different, let's say, points of emphasis and inflections of meaning. And also added to it the information that I was getting from reading other Taoist sages like Zhuangzi, and putting it all together. And then adding to that the fact that we are now in a global culture in which all of the spiritual traditions are available to everyone. And the terminology of all of those traditions should be applied in the book so that it is clearly useful to someone, whether they are a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or a Buddhist, a Hindu or whatever, because the same concepts appear with slightly different signifiers. And the more that we understand that there is one approach and that we are all Taoists, whether we realize it or not, the more that we will be able to make use of this work of wisdom to serve our own personal needs and those of our communities. So everyone's familiar with the first chapter of the Tao Te Ching, I'm sure, in which Laozi declares that the Tao that can be named is not the real Tao, right? This is the first Zen koan, if you will, to be anachronistic, about that he presents to us. The Tao is something you can't really speak about, and yet there's 81 poems that are trying to delineate it. And many more books about the Tao that followed this one. But all of the words that you can speak or think or read are only pointers to the inner self, to the silence, to that place within where the Tao is located in your own heart. And that's the Tao you have to encounter, not the one on the page. Not the Tao that is encrusted with symbolic theories, but the Tao that you express in your own being without always knowing it. But by knowing that, by feeling the vibration of the Tao and letting it speak, letting it move you, then everything will be accurate. So the Tao that is put in words is only to enable us to reach the Tao of silence within. So I will read you the first song as it was given to me in this new version. And it's we've called all of these songs and each chapter, and the first one is called The Way to Salvation. The Tao is the way to liberation from the matrix of illusion known as the world. But the way cannot be grasped from an egocentric mindset, only from emptiness that saturates each frame of being time. The Tao that can be reduced to a name or concept that could be grasped by a created entity is not the authentic Tao. The Tao is real, but its locus is a dimension above that of thought, not an idea that can be contained in thought, since it belongs to the unknowable thinker. the mind that is dreaming the world. The Tao programs all the algorithms that produce every appearance and mental event, mental object and event. To pierce the veil that separates you from the Tao, be without intention. This is a very key word. Be without intention. Totally empty, totally present, stretched to the limits of perception and open to what enters from beyond. To see the beauty of the world, realize that the intelligence and love of the Supreme One permeates each moment and all beings and appearances, and the consciousness to whom it all appears. Even in this time of ugliness, of the horror of planetary death, beauty is everywhere, and ecstasy is our natural state. The Tao and the world's unfoldment are not two. Open your third eye and see with non-dual vision. The Tao is timeless, while the world is ephemeral. The Tao will continue long after this world's demise. But even the momentary is eternal, and death has no effect on the real. The Tao has been called by many names, including God, nothingness, the self of the universe, the absolute. The true meaning of those terms cannot be understood by a mind that is split internally between subject and object and imagines itself bound by karma. Silent focus on the infinite self until immersion is complete will bring the rapture of salvation. Even when it seems all hope is lost in this hall of mirrors that is the cosmic holographic simulation, the immeasurable creative potency of the Tao is undiminished. The grace of the Tao, even now, is fully present in the center of your mind. So the idea of this version of the Tao was to keep to the same ideas and insights and principles that Laozi presented in each of the 81 poems of the original, and to simply adapt it to the needs of the postmodern consciousness, and to enable us to apply it to the specific situations that we face, but not to add to or improve on what cannot be improved upon, at least not by this one. I'll read a few more so you get an idea of the spectrum of topics that are covered. This one is Song 17, called The Trajectory of Culture. When a culture is young and still inspired by the ideals of its founders, the people creatively develop their arts. They live out great adventures, while most are barely aware of the governmental officers who work behind the scenes. When culture has attained success and comfort, then the leader is loved and highly praised. In the following period of slow decline, rulers arise who are hated and feared. And in the end, when the civilization is approaching its death, rulers appear who are idiots, despised by all. I won't name names. When coherence and truthfulness disappear, corruption and incompetence grow unchecked. A leader who is wise will not use force nor make promises that cannot be kept. When projects work out well, credit is given to God and the virtue of the Tao. So the book deals with the collapse of culture, of civilization, and of the entire system that we are used to depending upon, that is forcing those who are awakened to realize that we must become much more self-sufficient and less dependent on Big Brother and more free to follow our own path through life without trying to obey convention. Song 18, Any Day Now. When the Tao is abandoned by the people, kindness and justice rise in value. When those virtues have degraded, they are replaced by the discourse of reason, which soon devolves into the facile ideology of pseudo-scientism. Hypnotized by technological wonders, the masses of people are deceived. Their education is dumbed down, and they are slowly turned into fools who accept their own enslavement so long as it is called protection. When foul play is the method of the rulers and traitors take control of the thrones, they demand strict obedience from all, especially when they order the entire population to commit suicide. You can hear the mountains call. It is time to slip away. The system will fall any day. So that won't come as news to too many people. The knockout. This is what each of us must accomplish in order to become free. Song 23. Silence is the only truthful speech. Spoken words are a faulty translation. When talk is needed, whisper and be brief. Storms do not last, and people hide from them. Stormy minds squander their strength. A tranquil voice reveals the Tao when presence has been realized in the heart. Success and failure have no meaning to the egoless mind. Life and death are not a concern. Virtue is the power that commands, but does not deign to differentiate between good and bad. Virtue knows only perfection. Although tyranny combined with technology is now destroying all that humans hold dear, the sage understands that this is needed to awaken their anesthetized hearts. Artificial intelligence cannot defeat the real. Technology does only one thing well. It was made for the harrowing of hell. A master artist does not seek fame. A great painting needs no frame. The cosmic dreamer needs no assistance. A new world is being dreamed without resistance. The wellsprings of love that brings the gift of death and redemption is our own cosmic nature being born. Despite one's surface stains, underlying purity remains. All self-doubt should be knocked out. I think the main problem people have is self-doubt, because they have lived with a sense of lack and inadequacy and unlove for so long, and lack of faith in God, in the self, in goodness, in love, because they have been betrayed so many times and have lost faith and lost faith in themselves. And this must be overcome through our own surrender to the lost heart that will guide us home once we have reconnected. let's see. I'm not going to read too many more because it's getting late, but I'll read this one. 41, the perfect instrument. When highly developed minds hear the Tao, they are transfigured by the truth. When semi-individuated persons are told about the Tao, they stay in doubt. When petty narcissistic egos hear of the Tao, they ridicule it. To some, the Tao's strategy of inaction seems like giving up. To others, it seems like a delusion to cover the abyss. But the Tao is the abyss, without a cover. Nothingness is what you are. The perfect sphere has no circumference, and the exact center is always oneself. The perfect instrument does nothing, but leaves nothing more to do. The dream of duality seems cruel and monstrous, but makes apparent the imperative of virtue. The Tao has all but disappeared. This fallen world will soon follow. Unbearable bliss will consume us all. These final days of the naked truth in our wondrous void will be utterly astonishing. Last one, the New Order, Song 58. When evil overtakes the global system and mass murder is ordered, there is no obligation to obey. A new social structure cannot arise until a higher level of consciousness becomes established among all. Only then could a gift economy thrive, with bonds of trust that will not break. The new order must be founded on the principle of freedom, so all must first be free of any ego. The new order can develop only in accord with the law of love, guided by true wisdom and compassion and dispassion. So first we must attain that level. The new order must provide sacred spaces where wounded souls can heal and reunite in silence with the source. So we must build a cadre of healers. A pure way of life must be modeled, in which none are abused or debased, and all are encouraged to grow by sages who are fully grown and still growing. The sage being real emanates a morphic field where artists can gather and work, safely ensconced in a womb of love, whence divine renaissance can spring forth. So our purpose is a renaissance. It is to give a rebirth to all that is best in the human spirit, all that has been lost in the cynicism and consumerism and materialism of these final centuries, really, but especially this last century of our age. And it is now culminating in chaos and in the total dissolution of order, of trust, of bonds of love. So they must be recreated from a grassroots level. And we must come together humbly, willing to learn, willing to grow, willing to become different than we were, willing to sacrifice our own desires and personal comfort in order to make sure that everyone has enough. And soon we will be struggling to have enough food and enough of what is required to live in the world physically. So we have to be at that level where we are able to sacrifice for the sake of all, where we are able to be unselfish again and to be able to serve generously and to offer refuge and to offer healing energy and acceptance for those who will be in inner chaos, anxiety, and terror. And so we must become immune to that dis-ease in order to be able to serve and disseminate the Tao. This is our function. This is the reason for the publication of this book. And I hope that some of these songs have inspired and enlivened your hearts and made you more open to your own transformation and your own capacity to become a true sage in this time when such beings are needed more than ever, so that we may transition from this dying world and give birth to a world of peace together as a single superorganismic consciousness that functions to sustain the cosmos. May we be at peace with all that happens without, and in our hearts, in unity within, and connected to all with love. Thank you all. Namaste. So a few people here have read the poems in this book and would like to come up and make some comments. This is the hardest part for me, to have to listen to this, but I will endure it, and I appreciate the observations and insights that people who have read the book can offer from a different perspective than my own. And I hope everyone will speak candidly and fully about what they have learned from this project and how it has changed them. So you want to bring up a chair, Arjun, and let me ask Yogi Raj to come up first, okay? You're asked to say a few words. So I'm only going to call those now who have declared that they're willing to come up in public.
Thank you very much. I've only read through the book once, but I just, well, to be able to participate in the celebrating of this is very special. I appreciate that. And it's really been medicine to read through and start the day by reading different songs and feeling the vibrational frequency that they're transmitting, and to be able to recall that throughout the day, and for that to be part of our lives, and for it to be something that comes up in conversation and we can relate to, I think really achieves what you were speaking to, right? The practical power to being attuned to the mind of God. It makes God relevant again. And for someone who came from an environment where religion was equated with God, it's taken a long time for that to be something that's important and special and even wanted. And so I think it's really very healing. And I think to have a guide of how to live in community is something that I really value, because it's not easy. And I think one of the main things that I take away from the book is that all of these challenges that we face are to bring wisdom. And there's something really funny about that in the end. And I really appreciate all the work that was put into this. One question actually that I have is there a value? I know you've gone through the process of like adapting it to our time. Is reading some of the older translations so that we can see the difference between the two of them and understand what that adaptation is? Is that important? And do you have I know you just said that you drew on many different translations, but would you recommend one to read alongside of it?
Sure, I can give you a few of them. Probably the one with the most, let's say, academic value in terms of giving the comments of other Taoist sages during that period and in the Neo-Taoist period is the translation by Red Pine. So that's probably a good one to start with. And I did try to keep as many phrases as possible from the original so one could get that I was working with that same concept. But it wasn't possible in all of them. And there is such a wide variety of translations that there isn't a common one throughout all of them, but the same basic idea is there in different words. So yeah, it may actually be useful for you to do that. Not everyone needs to do that, but if you are called to it, yes.
It just feels so relevant, Shunya, and there's one phrase in particular where you talk about like the value of silence, but staying silent in a time where there's mass genocide happening and like transhumanist movements and all of these kinds of things. I really appreciate the courage that it takes to speak directly to those things and feel the virtue and the power where it's coming from. So thank you.
Thank you, Yogi Raj. I appreciate your wisdom and your own courage and ability to transform and now to take care of chickens.
Whatever's needed.
We've just acquired some chickens and some eggs already to become a self-sustaining community in this time when there may be food shortages shortly. We encourage other communities, wherever you may be, to do the same. Let's see. Parvati, you are the formatter of the book. We all owe you a debt of gratitude, so please say a few words.
Thank you, Shunya. I actually wrote something that I hope to be an expression of gratitude, and I think how to put it, I think what is thus far my trying to apply it to my experience in life. So it should only take a few minutes. That's okay. I wanted to express how much gratitude I feel for being able to be part of this fledgling Sat Yoga publications team, and to Ajata and Vajra for unending patience and care. It brings great joy to my heart to be able to help and serve in this way of bringing to fruition and a form to disseminate your words of healing that, when drunk to the dredges, offers the keys to the mastering of serenity, which is indeed the wisest course. You speak in the epilogue of words and language. The Tao is a through line, but the through line is not straight because words are not straight with us. At the core of it, the ego I, that seems to stand straight but can't see past its own event horizon because it's too belligerently drunk on its own delusional algorithms and jouissance and ends up paralyzed by fear and desire, signifiers with its feet out from under it on its backside at best. I feel I came here psycho-spiritually crooked, incoherent, destroyed by life, lies, empty, crazy-making words, traumas, and defenses. But I've been melted in this alchemical fire, straightened out and strengthened, learning to listen and surrender to the Dharma and acceptance of solitude, my compass calibrated, depths of my heart touched I did not even know were there, and set on the way to salvation by your unconditional love and law and words of meaning moreness in every teaching as in this book, that help me to understand myself and make grand dialectical discoveries out of divergent dualistic drives of demonic depravity on a karmic collision course of chaotic internal conflict to catastrophe. You wrote words for the landing page, that this book lays out the way to pass with sacred strength and purity of heart the test of the awesome and dreadful truth of what is happening in the world today that we are being forced to face. As the book came to manifest this last week, I've had the opportunity to experience the consequences of this global gulags offering an ordeal of inconceivable, awesome dreadfulness in my own microcosm that shocked my heart to the core, as you wrote in Psalm 21, and that I know is only an appetizer of the knockout to come. Your words and containment have made an intrepid archer of me, what I always wanted to be when I spent hours in childhood on the archery range, shooting at the wrong target, always leading me to find my way towards the peak, the pinnacle of grace, being the earth as the majesty of mountains, the only point of coherence with a vantage high enough and still enough to fully contain the forbidden and unbearable feelings of the pain of lack of love, and yet exquisite vulnerable opening in the depths of my soul when projection drops away and release. A state of consciousness and conscience that can confront death without guilt, perceive the blessing, be unattached, drop every why, and witness and grok with wisdom, peace, and dispassion, as you do on the cover, the miracle of the unfoldment of this tragic comedy on the stage of life, as the most subtle and nuanced lessons of all containing inconceivable love, and its full spectrum from the most inverted, dark, and violent to a realization of being in the world, but not of it, that otherwise could not be awakened. And then let the eye and all the tears dissolve in the flow with the waters of virtue as these songs sing us through the light of the singularity, passing every test with true devotion and love for the real, to graduate and continue on to the next stop in this ineffable, mysterious dream in the mind of God. Thank you for adapting not only the Tao to contextualize this moment in the cycle of the illusion of time, but every facet of knowledge that I feel you unendingly recontextualize, reframe, unfold, unpack, and unveil, emanating the value of emptiness, and then filling with the awe of infinite discovery and gnosis. May the sacred book show the way out by going in, and bring solace to all souls who seek the final solution and reward in the silent laughter and ecstatic dance of a sublimely innocent sage gone woo-woo.
Wow, you put the whole book into that one. I think you created a new idiom of Tao rap. You'll have to sing that in another satsang. Beautiful. Thank you for those eloquent words, Parvati, and for all your help and for going through the rite of passage that you are going through so bravely and so in harmony with the Tao. So, very beautiful. Thank you. By the way, I do want to give credit to Ajata for this incredible cover that shows the sage looking through the mountain valley at the big syringe and the mushroom cloud behind it. And I think it sums up what we are facing. And I appreciate Ajata's beautiful artistry in accomplishing that. Let's see. Why don't we ask Radhaman to come up? Okay.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Well, I have to say, I was so moved by hearing you speak the words. I heard the poem, the song, one, and the others that you wrote completely differently. So it once again shows the importance of having a teacher, and as you said, to be guided, because even when I think of the comments I wanted to make, they're very much from my current frame of reference, and I felt the true depth of the meaning and the poetry behind them, having you speak them. So I'm very glad that you will be guiding us through the book. So I almost feel that what I wanted to comment on is almost secondary to what I felt when you read. But I will say that the book, because it also echoes in a unique form all of your teachings, it feels like a way to live your teachings. And I noticed that I said the same thing without knowing it, or was going to say the same thing now, that I said about gems, which is there was a line that you spoke of in Song 48 that, of course, all the teachings are to bring us to the point where nothing remains except emptiness. Drop all desire and fear until nothing remains but immediacy. And so it was that concept that I highlighted from gems, but I think that it's just because you're the sage of immediacy. I think that that's what you teach, is how to live now on a graph of time and space, verticality, horizontality, and the depth dimension all at once. So in terms of the book, though, I think I selected, my heart selected out the comments that you made about opening up vision and sight. I was just reading something about this, and I've always felt a connection between destroyed Oedipus complex, getting glasses really young, and not having vision, shutting down one's mind, and all related to this early childhood complex. And so to me, the opening up of sight is the key atmanological and spiritual work that has to be done. So the book itself is that, but I will highlight what I feel were the openings of sight for me, which is I've always glazed over the Tao Te Ching's and other writings' description of the pairs of opposites, kind of like how boring to always hear about the pairs of opposites, you know, black and white and good and bad and all of this. But using your words, you said something about the asymmetries and the complementarities. In Song 42, I believe in the grand dialectic, but I feel you show us the symmetry, and I don't mean that in a good way, of the asymmetries of the pairs of opposites, which are also strangely complementarities. But the whole entrance that you have given this mind, and I know the Sangha too, into the dialectic, and that the entire world is a dialectic, and that is the only way one gets to the center of one's mind, has been pure gold, alchemical gold. And of course, you've done this through teaching us the love for the real, which I think Song 33 is completely dedicated to. And yet, one can only truly love the real if you go through the ordeal. And of course, that's the song I picked, The Ordeal. And I'm not going to read all of it, but my favorite resting place, right, to work in, you must pass through despair. And the terror of being vulnerable again and feel the tragic lack of essence and power. Emphasis on you must. Without disassociation or diffusion or somatization or another defense. And that this rite of passage is an easier, not easy, not ever easy, easier ordeal for those who love the real. I had no idea what the real was when I met Shunyamurti, but it's taken all these years to feel it and have a relationship to it. And of course, the real is presence, and I feel all the songs that you have written order the mind so that presence can be felt. And that's how I interpreted the center of the mind. Finally, the ordering of the mind theme is also the middle where I live and work, and here you say it in Song 5, that between heaven and earth, the magical symbolic dimension is given to be mastered by our own mind. And I never forget, and I've always held true to it, that you have said that that is how we release ourselves, by mastering the symbolic, and there's no way around it. But one last comment is I feel you put that in another way. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm mixing levels, but you said the Shiva Tattva, the sixth element, when you wrote of the elemental knowledge, intelligence itself is that through which we will draw the sword of truth from the stone. But I feel that this tome that you've written is another pulling out of yet another sword of truth, or form of sword of truth from the stone that we're all working with. So I appreciate it deeply.
Thank you very much. Beautifully said. Let me ask Vajra to say a few words. Surprise. Because Vajra is the person who actually put this all together, edited and proofread and went through painstakingly many times and brought it to its culmination. So please.
I didn't sign up, but you said be alert, be awake, be courageous, be generous. So I prepared a little something, just in case.
I knew you would.
someone wrote in the chat before we began, it's so awesome, we're going to change the world with poetry. And I thought that that was such a beautiful way to begin the evening. So Haji to that. I've been so just in awe of all of the outpourings of gratitude and resonance that so many have shared, either by buying the book or in comments in the emails that I receive about the book, or little notes accompanying their payments. It's just been more than I could have ever imagined, and I don't know why, because we should be able to imagine infinite, but especially with Shunyamurti writing these beautiful songs that speak to the moment. But it just really blew me away and touched my heart and really made me remember and realize ever more the work that we do and how healing it is and will continue to be on even greater scales for the whole world. This work, of course, is not just from Shunya or from me or from Parvati, but for the whole sangha. And it was reminding me earlier of when you spoke of Thich Nhat Hanh last week, and you said the teaching that he gives about holding up the paper. And what do you see when you look at the paper? It's not just a piece of paper, it's all of the elements that have gone into it, all of the work, all of the trees, and all of the people who have cut down the trees, and all of the work that it takes in order for the piece of paper to come to the place that it arrives at. And that's how I feel about the book. When you see the book, when you hold the book in your hands or read it on your computer or whatever, it's all of the elements from Song 8, Elemental Knowledge. It's one of my favorites. But also the entire sangha and all of Shunya's love for truth and willingness to share that truth. And the power and the transmissions of all the sages that have inspired this truth to come through in this moment now. And so I would encourage everyone to even just take that moment to feel that for yourself, and then to, as you dive into the book, to really allow that to be transmitted to you, because the book, the words, and the energy that the book, The Tao of the Final Days, has is really potent and is really, I think, the guidebook for transversing. Did I make that word up? Traversing this moment in time, and an inspiration and a call to truth and effortless action, the battle cry of the army of the Tao, woo woo, and the spirit and the way of the sage.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Om Tao Sat. So thank you so much. It's such an honor and a privilege to be able to be a part of the process, and I appreciate every single draft that you write and every line break that you change, and all of the many beautiful manifestations of the book before it comes into the one that we present.
Thank you. Now get to work on the next one.
Haji.
So, Mahalakshmi, would you like to say a few words?
So this was a difficult to try to express what this book has meant or provoked in me when I read it. I had to review it a little bit to just kind of confirm what I had felt originally. And I have to say that the word that came is a feeling, of course, feeling state. And it was joy. And in trying to understand why I was feeling joy, I was trying to express, well, how would I express this joy? And it came as my heart is singing. And I went back to at least a few Tao Te Ching versions online. I didn't find the word song, so I was wondering if that is your own titling.
Indeed.
So anyways, my heart is singing. My heart was singing when I ended it, and it's been singing all night. Because I feel that this book is a book that brings hope, that renews faith, that that has a quality of a vibrational frequency. And I think you did mention that either in the conclusion or the epilogue. But the Tao is a vibrational frequency, and what one needs to learn about the Tao is precisely how to attune to that. And of course, you say it's through silence, through stillness, through the emptiness. And that's exactly what the book did. So it is a beautiful Mahavakya, which is, of course, the work of a true sage, to be able to communicate not only in language, but also vibrationally or through energy, what the teaching is. And it has done that to me, to the point not only of feeling an increase in vibrational frequency, but in joy, which to me is the ultimate sign of redemption, of salvation, of purification. It contains everything else: goodness, love, beauty, compassion, etc., etc. Let me see if I have a few things. It has renewed, and I shouldn't say renewed, it has fed, because it has not been lost, very strongly my commitment to the path. Because it makes it closer. In a way, the fact that the end of the cycle is nearing is to me the best news. It's auspicious. It's the revelation, and it's coming soon. And I think this book for me meant a reminder of the little time that is left, and how important it is to use every minute or second of this time, in the time, not the timeless, until we reach the timeless, to actually attune to that vibrational frequency. And I think the book is a beautiful guide that takes us to that, gives us tips and stories and poems that touch the heart so deeply that the vibrational frequency is felt. And then the job is to maintain it, to keep it, to culture it, to cultivate it, to nurture it. Choosing a poem, impossible. I have too many favorites, too many. But there's one that you read the first time when you disclosed that you were doing a book, which none of us knew, I think, which is called The Arrival. And the title in itself, I was trying to remember, what was the title again of that poem? And I thought the 10 P's, because we joked about it the first time you read it. It talks about the 10 principles that comprise the Tao, and they all start with a P. But no, it's called The Arrival. And to me, it's a beautiful invitation in that when one has understood, has deeply, how would I say, interpreted and lived these 10 principles, then one has arrived to the destination. And I just want to read very quickly the principles, because I think it's, I hope it inspires others as it did me, or this one. One is polarity, and you have a series of descriptions. It's too long, but the pairs of opposites, obviously, I think Radama was referring to that. Two is pendularity, and this one in particular is very important for me because it explains the switches. You know, once there's a very high, and then there's a very low. But the good news is there's the next very high, and so on and so forth. Three is paradox, which you define as the inner nature of reality, is pure self-contradiction. 4 is passivity, understood as the art of inaction. 5 is perseverance, which you mentioned very recently as one of the most important qualities, the ability to keep on keeping on. Plasticity is number 7, the power to morph, to transform. 8, permeability, the power to absorb new information. 9, peace, serenity and silence reign, and we know what peace is. And finally, 10, presence. And you explain that if one is able to understand these 10 principles, one can be one with the Tao. So, in ending, I'd like to say that this time around, I understood so much better why you always said that this was, and you said it again tonight, that this was written for leaders, for rulers. Actually, you said rulers. I would say leaders today. This is a book that any leader in the world right now, and we're all leaders in one way in our community, in our family, in our relationship as a couple or as a parent, whatever it is, that helps one navigate these very, very trying times. So it is a book of leadership, I'd like to say, in honor of Laozi and in honor of Shunyamurti. And then lastly, I've enjoyed this term of woo-woo, which when I started this path, obviously everyone thought I was crazy and, oh, this cannot be. This is so woo-woo, don't say anymore. And I've come full circle, because that's exactly where I'm going to, is woo-woo. No, nothing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm very glad the book has given you joy. I hope it provides joy for every reader. And for those not familiar with woo-woo as a concept, it's actually Zhuangzi's concept, not Laozi. They had a kind of one-upmanship battle. And in Laozi's book, wu is the ultimate principle, nothing. And Zhuangzi said, no, it's not even nothing. So woo-woo is even cancel nothing. Because first of all, you can't conceptualize it, and it's everything as well as nothing, and there's no way to describe what it is. So woo-woo is the ultimate negation of any conceptualization of any positive description of reality. And once you get that, there's no I, no other, no world, nothing, not even nothing. Then you enter into the Tao. So I want to give the last word to Marjiva Ma, if you wish to talk about the book. Yes.
Interesting, the song picked to read is called Power Cut. Woo, woo. And it goes like this. The Tao leads souls to emptiness. A sage who is empty of ego is filled with the power of truth. When the Tao presides in a culture, the people are simple and honest, peaceful and content. When the Tao is obscured and the world is empty of sages, evil forces emerge. When society is ruled by demons, enacting their perverted desires, the Tao will not allow life to go on. The hologram will have its power cut, and mind will disappear into the void until the next creation. To know the Tao, cease producing thought and emotion. Become aware of the radiance within and recognize the world is only that. Learn to see with the divine eye the beauty of the source, and know that God is here right now. it felt very much that to know this, there's nothing else one needs to know. All that is left is to realize it. And that power cut with the appearances. And to be in the, as you end the book, behold the Tao in that place, to behold the beloved Tao, and all is cut, that is unreal. It was such a simple song, perhaps, and it said everything to this being as the way for the way to be realized, and for God to return to the world, and paradise be here for all to enjoy again. So it was of great reverence that it was chosen, and in honor and in devotion to the beloved Tao.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. And it's important to recognize that the power that will be cut to the phenomenal plane, which is a projection from the source, will bring us back to the real power, to the singularity, which is dreaming all of this and projecting it as a world. But the real power is never cut. When you go into ego consciousness, you have cut your connection to the power. So it's, in a way, the cut that is to be cut, and the power to be restored. And that power will redream a new world without any of the evil and dark forces that now have taken it over. So the Dharma will return, the Tao will be in place, all is well. The world is a test. It's a test of our goodness, of our faith, of our intelligence, and of our willingness to overcome adversity and to overcome our own ego, our own resistance to growth, our own resistance to transcending death, and our own addiction to our attachments on the physical plane. It's that test that makes us worthy of God consciousness, that brings us back into the power and the beauty of the avataric archetype of consciousness that we can then once more embody in a new world, which we will co-create together. And so I hope all who are listening recognize that you have been chosen to make the cut from the ego in order to return to the power and the glory of God that will bring a new world. And recognize that what the Christians say about the rapture, there's truth there. The rapture is real. It's not a bodily ascension, but the ascension of consciousness into the absolute dimension of our origin and our destiny is now returning. We can feel every day more the presence of that supreme energy. And all we have to do is to attune to it, and it will charge our batteries. It will give us new life, new inspiration, and a new understanding and attitude to be able to pass the test and graduate from this school that life is and become teachers and then become gods who are able to sustain universes on a whole new level of the multiverse. So we are ascending to higher levels of consciousness. And I advise everyone not to feel stuck at the human level. There are other levels of consciousness beyond the human that are available. And once you know those, you will never go back to being a puny organism with a mortal vehicle. So make use of this opportunity that we are all being given to transcend the pettiness of the ego and its attachments, to realize our cosmic consciousness and even that which transcends every cosmos, and know that to be who we really are here and now, and to live that even while the bodily vehicle functions, so that this energy can be grounded here and be shared and be offered as a great gift that is our final offering before we are allowed to ascend forever from this veil of tears, this plane of Maya, into the real that is beyond all duality. So I don't know if we have any time left. Is there anything on live stream that you'd like to say, Purusha? No? Okay. In that case, I think that'll be it, unless you have a question, Nirgun? I thought he might.
I do, actually. We have a retreat, an intensive starting next weekend. And there's a lot of people online, actually, in the chat who are new to this channel, new to your teachings, and would probably like to take their journey deeper. And I'm wondering if you could just say a few words about the intensive that you'll be offering next weekend.
Okay, in a way, it's a deepening of what is contained in this book. The original title was Living in a Dying World, but then we added, we are not living in a dying world. That's the illusion that we have to overcome, because there is no death and the world is only a simulation. We are projecting our consciousness in it, but we're not actually in it. And it is that realization that will enable us to function flawlessly and beautifully at the moment of greatest seeming adversity and chaos and oppression and demonic hegemony over the planet. So it is this understanding that will give us the power to prevail over the dark force and to bring out our laser swords of truth and light and wisdom to be able to do battle with those dark forces and to overcome them through that unifying power of light that subsumes the dark as its own privation, that can be defeated through the offering of an intense level of the energy of love, of divine love, not through hatred, not through anger, not through conflict, not through considering anyone an enemy, but through unifying the field once more in an absolute harmony through the realization of the power of consciousness. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in that retreat. And I hope everyone will be able to attend, because I think it will accelerate your capacity to be able to harness the power of spirit and use it in your life at the moments of greatest challenge, when you really need to have the power that keeps you in an energy field that is protected from negative vibrations and projections and even physical attack. So this is a very important teaching that is being transmitted that will be of practical use and value, I think, to everyone in this final period. Okay, so thank you. We'll also have a book group where we're going to be talking about all of these songs in depth, And in some of them, we'll go line by line to understand why did he say that and what's the meaning of that, so that we will be able to actually understand at a much deeper level than we might have been able to grok from just hearing the poem read one time. So I hope that people on the live stream will be able to attend that book group as well and to participate in the exegesis of the book and the internalization of its meanings in your own life, to overcome whatever obstacles, whatever traumas, whatever repressed aspects of consciousness must still be brought to the surface for you to achieve wholeness and unity of consciousness. And this is the order of the day, that it must be achieved now, so that we don't have any karmic residue that forces us to come back and have another lifetime at the end of Kali Yuga. We don't want to have to do that. We want to graduate now and be liberated while alive in this body, and not have to be reborn at the moment of destruction. So please take seriously the seriousness of the situation, and how not only is it a matter of life and death, but it's actually a matter of many lifetimes ahead and of overcoming the illusion of death. So a word to the wise to take advantage of what the sages are offering, and of the information that's available to help us overcome the illusion. So with that, I will adjourn this part of the satsang, and I think there'll be some announcements, but I appreciate everyone's contribution. And as was said, yes, the book couldn't have happened if it weren't for the entire sangha and for all of those who are part of the global sangha now, who are helping support our work and our transmissions to the world. So my gratitude and appreciation and love for all of you, and for your courage in willing to transform and become embodiments of the Tao is everlasting. Thank you all, and blessings to you all for liberation. Namaste. You're good.
Namaste. Welcome, everyone. It's been a real joy and a privilege to see all the comments on the chat and to be with you all tonight. We want to extend a very special welcome to all who have recently discovered this channel and Shunyamurti's teachings. It's amazing, as I say, to see how these teachings have been helpful to people and nourishing you, and it's really just a joy to be able to share them with you. This is a Sangha-wide effort, as Vajra said earlier. It takes the entire community to bring these teachings to you, and it really is our privilege to be working together here to be able to do that. I wanted to say that, as Shunyamurti said, we've got a weekend intensive that starts on Friday, and we want to be able to encourage everyone to participate in these weekend intensives, and so we are able to offer a pay what you can scholarship to those who are in need of financial assistance. So please, if you've just discovered Shunyamurti's teachings and you want to take it deeper and further, please do join us next Friday, and the link is in the description. And also, as Shunyamurti said, for the first time we're going to have Shunyamurti offer a book group to our members section. And so if you're interested in that, please join our membership section. There's a ton of teachings there, hours of seminars and essays and guided meditations. It's really an incredible treasure trove for anyone who's being nourished by Shunya's teachings. So I encourage you to do that. There's a 10-day free trial, so you can try it all out. And if you like it, I hope that you'll be able to join us for the book group, which we're really, really excited about offering to the world. And for us as well, it'll be a sangha event. We'll be there, you'll be there. It'll be a great joy, I'm sure. And finally, I want to let you know about a brand new 7-session online course, an intensive, that's presented by Radhama, who you met a little earlier on. She's the director of our Jnana department, our wisdom department here at the ashram. And this is a 7-session course that's condensed all of the fundamental teachings of Sat Yoga that had been given for many, many years here at the ashram. And they've been condensed to be able to be offer them to the world, because it's kind of hard to travel these days and not everyone can make it here to the ashram. So we encourage you to explore that as well. It's a really good base on which to build from there for all the teachings. So as I say, it's been a real joy and a privilege to be with you this evening. I hope you'll join us again very, very soon. Sign up to our newsletter as well if you haven't already, because these days you never know what might happen and where we might go. So please sign up so that we're always able to communicate with you and let you know where we are and continue to deliver these teachings to you, whatever may happen. So do sign up. All right. Thank you very much again for your time and your attention, and we'll see you soon. Namaste. Many blessings.